Is that getting any better?
It's starting to get better. We've had problems both in processing and in terms of what level of disability. A bum knee in Ohio isn't necessarily compensated the same as a bum knee in San Diego. It doesn't make sense. I meet regularly with General Shinseki, the Secretary of the VA, talk about, we meet probably quarterly talking about this to make sure that Ohio's treated the same, that there's more standard treatment in terms of catching up on backlog and in terms of how much people are, what percentage disability and what the payment is for each veteran.
Let me ask you an off-topic question. How well do you know Ed FitzGerald, and what's your advice to him to either to win in 2014?
The advice is to make the contrast in what he stands for in terms of the attacks on collective bargaining rights, the attacks on women's health that the legislature and the governor have engaged in. I mean, there's a clear contrast on women's health issues, on voting rights, and in terms of worker rights in the state. And I think that's in many ways the difference between the two political parties.
What's he going to have to do to get Ohioans to know who he is?
He's just got to get out and do that. I mean, nobody's very well known the first time they do it, and he's got 15 months to get well known.
Jobs Ohio emerged as an issue?
I don't know. We'll see. You guys write that it might. Some papers write that it might. Some papers write that it won't. I don't know.
We do both.
Thank you, Senator.
How's the new house?
Not moved in yet. Not even closed on it yet. We're excited moving in the city. We're very excited.
So what
There's still an apartment here. We're still here too.
But what's it mean to be moving into the city in Cleveland?
It's not a political statement. I'm not running for mayor. My wife's not running for mayor, although I've read both, or she's read both online. The comments are pretty interesting. It's a different world. But it just means that we're closer to the metro parks, closer to the ballpark. We like the idea of urban living at our age. I just turned 60. My wife is age appropriate, but younger than that. I won't say how many years younger, but anyway, you get it. And we're just real excited about living there.
So back in Washington, Harry Reid, your leader, we had this issue of the filibuster. Republicans seem to have sort of stood down a little bit with Cordray and some other folks. Do you expect them to be as helpful going forward, or are we going to end up with loggerheads come?
I think that it's going to be, I don't know, I take them at their face value for what happened. They were willing to do what people in both parties have done for decades in the Senate, and that is have up or down votes on confirmations of people the president picks. I hope they do the same for judges, and I hope we can see some cooperation on the Farm Bill from the House of Representatives. We've passed a Farm Bill, immigration, my China currency, pro-jobs, economic growth bill, strong bipartisan votes. The House hasn't moved on them. I hope they'll follow the Senate lead and work bipartisanly with us.
People might see that there's some distance growing between you and President Obama on trade issues. You come out on Federal Reserve for it appears he's favoring
Well, I don't know. The first part is clear. There's the difference, and there always has been, and I had the same differences with President Clinton, with President Bush, and with President Obama. I think Obama has much more aggressively enforced trade rules and trade law than either of his two predecessors, either party. I don't agree with him on some of his trade initiatives, but that's, I'm going to fight for Ohio, not fight for a president. I mean, that's not my job to do. In terms of Yellen, I think she's had a history of achievement. I don't know that the president leans one way or the other, and that news reports say that some news reports have said he supports Summers, but I think that's because news people assume that because he knows Summers much better, because he was in the White House, and he really doesn't know Yellen as well, that he might favor her. I don't know if that's the case. I think that there's the fact that 20 senators, I circulated a letter in one day, 20 senators signed in support of Yellen, tells me there's there would be close to unanimous support on the Democratic side and plenty of support on the Republican side for her as Fed chair. That's the president's choice.
What problem do you have with Summers?
I more have support of Yellen. I disagree with Summers on, I think he doesn't, I think that far too many people, including him, have had a bias towards financial services at the expense of manufacturing. When you look at 30 years ago, our manufacturing was over 25% of GDP, financial services was 10%. Now it's almost flipped. It tells you one of the reasons places like my hometown of Mansfield or Columbus or Newark or Cleveland or Dayton have been hit so hard by lost manufacturing, the whole state have been hit so hard by lost manufacturing jobs.
I don't think the Fed has much to do with international trade, but you have a problem.
Well, the Fed, Summers and I don't agree with the number of, but I mean, I suppose there's things with Yellen I don't agree. The Fed helps to set a bit of a tone on international trade agreements, but doesn't participate, as you say. So I don't know.
I wanted to ask you about this No Names rally that's coming today about gun violence. I know they said appreciate your support for their cause. I guess just why is it important for something like that to happen?
I think that what the Senate passed was sensible gun safety legislation supported by 80 or 90% of the public, Republicans, Democrats, and Independents alike, and I'm still hopeful the House of Representatives will bring it up to a vote. There's simply no reason that the legislation was bipartisan. It had strong support from all kinds of groups. Was opposed by one really big organization, the NRA, that once supported that idea. So that was unfortunate. I still hope that we're successful on it.
So since we've talked about manufacturing, you've been a longtime advocate for an industrial policy. How close are we to convincing the White House to have one and or Congress to help?
The White House is doing that are part of a policy in that direction. I mean, it's not a comprehensive manufacturing policy, but on job training, on tax policy that takes away the incentives to outsource jobs and gives companies incentives to build production here. Our national network, manufacturing network, the president did a shout out in the State of the Union about Youngstown and what they're doing with additive manufacturing, advanced manufacturing. There's a lot of things the White House is doing on advanced manufacturing and on a manufacturing policy. Call it what you want. I don't think the term industrial policy is one they will adopt. I don't care what the term is as long as they're doing a lot of things that they should.
Do you think workforce investment stays intact?
I think so.
Yeah?
Yep.
Thanks.